Many times parents say to me, talk to our kids. Their values are messed up, discipline is messed up. My answer is, kids are not messed up, parents are messed up. Today's parents are scared of their kids. They don't have the guts to say no to their kids. I'm not a doctor. My academics are, I'm a BCom third division, failed in my 10th. That's my academics. So I remember when I used to walk into one of my classes, and as I used to walk in, my teacher used to say, Shiv, get out, get out. I said, sir, what have I done? He said, you haven't done, but you will do. So stay out, right? You will do. And in my 8th grade, out of 6 and 7 subjects, I failed in all except one. So my principal called me and said, Shiv, you're paying too much attention on one subject. And out of 28 kids, I was 27 because the 28 was absent. A lady had a 5-year-old boy, and she went to President Jefferson in the US, and she asked the president, my son is 5 years old, when should I start character education for my son? And he asked, how old is your son? She said, he's 5 years old. And Jefferson said, lady, you are 5 years too late. When people start learning martial art, they get the white belt, yellow, orange, purple, green, brown, black belt. And right from day one, they start learning basic stuff, which is block punch, block punch, block punch. And 5 years later, even after they get the black belt, they're still practicing what? Block punch, what? Block punch. Why? Because they want to get the block and punch into reflex action. You open your mouth and the world can tell you who the hell you are. So many times people ask me, what do they do differently? And my answer is, winners form the habit of doing things losers don't like to do. Now, what are the things losers don't like to do? They're the same things winners don't like to do either, but they do it anyway. See, losers don't like to get up in the morning. Winners don't like to get up in the morning either, but they get up anyway. See, losers don't like to work hard. Winners don't like to work hard either, but they work hard anyway. They form the habit of doing things losers don't like to do. It comes automatic. It is a reflex action for them. And if we have positive habits, we are a positive character. And if we have negative habits, we are a negative character. And folks, good habits are hard to come by, but they're easy to live with. Bad habits come easy, but they're hard to live with. And before we got the habit, how many times have you heard people saying like this, that this person is just lucky? Every time he touches dirt becomes gold. And this person is just unlucky. Every time he touches gold becomes dirt. Now, there's a lot of truth in this statement, minus the word luck. Folks, people who we call lucky, every time they touch dirt becomes gold, analyze their life, analyze every transaction in their life, and you will find the positive behavior has become habitual. Every time they do it right, it happens right because the reflexes move right. And the person we call unlucky, analyze their life, analyze every transaction in their life, and you'll find the negative behavior has become habitual. Every time they do it wrong, it happens wrong because the reflexes are moving wrong. Folks, you notice one thing, there are some people, they go from one success to the second, the third one. Anything they do, they become successful. And there are some people who keep failing from one after the other, and the other, and the other. You know what, folks? Aristotle once said, success is a habit, and so is failure. I repeat, success is a habit, and so is failure. If we establish positive habits, no matter how you do and what you do, it happens right, it comes out right. When people start learning martial art, they get the white belt, yellow, orange, purple, green, brown, black belt. And right from day one, they start learning basic stuff, which is block punch, block punch, block punch. And 5 years later, even after they get the black belt, they're still practicing what? Block punch, what? Block punch. Why? Because they want to get the block and punch into reflex action. Why is that? Because the teacher realizes that if the student is ever in a street fight, if he has to think to block and punch, what will happen? He'll get beaten up. A martial arts student never has to think to block and punch. They never commit their blow till you commit. And after you commit, the reflexes move so fast. All it takes is one, it's all over. Folks, it is again comes back to reflexes. And you heard this phrase, practice makes perfect. How many believe it's true? Raise your hand. Totally incorrect answer. Folks, keep in mind, practice does not make perfect. Practice only makes permanent whatever we practice. Some people keep practicing their mistakes and they become perfect in making mistakes. Folks, check out, when you go learning martial art, the young kids, they hit hard. Teacher at that time says, go slow. Go slow, learn the form correctly first. Because if your form is incorrect and you have speed, you'll fracture your own hands. So form is more important. If you are practicing incorrect form, that will become permanent. So go slow. Keep in mind, practice does not make perfect. Practice only makes permanent whatever you practice. That is what becomes permanent. So we need to be very clear what makes it go and what does not. Folks, in the defense services, about 70% of the career in the defense services goes into what? Into simulation of warfare. Why is that? What is simulation? Simulation means they play war games as if there's a real war going on right now. Why? Because they realize that when there's a real war, if they have to think to fight a war, do you think they can ever fight a war? Answer is never. So that is why we need to bring all positive behavior into reflex action. Many times people say, I want to have an extraordinary life. I want to have extra income. I want to have extraordinary success. Folks, they need to ask, are you an extraordinary person? Are you willing to work extraordinarily hard in life? Do you have extraordinary integrity in life? Do you have extraordinary commitments in life? Do you have extraordinary relationships in life? If you got none of these extraordinary, you will get nothing extraordinary in life. Are you with me? Folks, what it means is whenever people see a success story, they say must be lucky, must be at the right place at the right time. Now, this is an incomplete sentence. Folks, being at the right place at the right time is important, but you must be the right person. Because if you're not the right person, you could be at the right place at the right time and get nothing in life. The third highest cause of death in the US is medical negligence. Third highest cause of death in the US is medical negligence. What does that mean? Means doctors made mistakes. Attitude was wrong. They didn't transfer the patient from one doctor to the next, didn't give proper instructions to the nurses or the other doctors, and because of that, patient died. Now that is US. In India, probably the number could be much higher because there's no statistics kept here. And then we get into integrity is a way of life. I'll share with you something else. I was in about a time almost 20 years ago, these hotels were going back to 120%, 50% occupancy. You had to have connections to get a room in Bombay. And some of the hotels, they become very arrogant. They became very arrogant. And they ill-treated their customers. So one of my major clients, a multinational, they moved their loyalty from that hotel to another one. And I asked him, I said, why did you change your loyalty from that hotel? He said, the way they ill-treated us, I'll never go there back again. So the general manager of this new hotel was right there. And he said, well, that's really not good. Being in hospitality industry, courtesy is very important. And again, he said, being in hospitality, courtesy is very important. He said the third time, being in hospitality, courtesy is very important. So I told this gentleman, I said, sir, that's the problem. I said, it doesn't matter which industry you are, courtesy is very important no matter which industry. You see, when you keep repeating the hospitality industry, courtesy is important, it means so long as the other person represents a dollar value to you, you treat them with courtesy. A lady had a 5-year-old boy, and she went to President Jefferson in the US, and she asked the president, my son is 5 years old. When should I start character education for my son? And he asked, how old is your son? She said, he's 5 years old. And Jefferson said, lady, you are 5 years too late. You are already 5 years too late. Folks, really comes back to the basics. And there are people, it says, champs or cheats. Some of the great people who have big names, I wouldn't say the great people. You see, the outside reputation was great, but internally they were cheats. Look at Tiger Woods, great golfer, but he cheated on his spouse, on his wife. Overnight, over $1 billion contract went off. Forget the $1 billion, to hell with it. But is that the way to live? Is that the way to go? So many people like Bill Clinton's and the Tiger Woods, and there are many other people. But is that the way to live? And even if you never get caught, but is that the way to live? Question is that the way? So we need to understand the difference between reputation and character. I'm not a doctor. My academics are, I'm a BCom 3rd division, failed in my 10th. That's my academics. And in school, I was the brightest kid. I was the backbencher, troubling the front benchers. And I remember in my 8th grade, when I used to come into my class, you see, I don't know how your classes are here, but in modern school in Delhi, Mr. Kapoor used to be the principal, we used to shift from one class to another. Rather than the teacher coming into the same class all the time, we had to shift. So Mr. Kapoor said, when these kids get up after every 50 minutes class, they walk up a little, they become alert again, so go to the next class. So they had to walk up every time, moving on. So I remember when I used to walk into one of my classes, and as I used to walk in, my teacher used to say, Shiv, get out, get out. I said, sir, what have I done? He said, you haven't done, but you will do. So stay out, right? You will do. So I had that kind of reputation, sir. And in my 8th grade, out of 6 and 7 subjects, I failed in all except one. So my principal called me and said, Shiv, you're paying too much attention on one subject. And out of 28 kids, I was 27 because the 28 was absent. No kidding. Folks, I'm not advocating that by any standard, but my point is, look, if our kids, I have grandchildren this age, if our kids can solve mathematical problems multiple ways and speak 3-4 languages, but if they cannot solve day-to-day problem, they're a failure. They are totally a failure. Now I'm 75, and my wife keeps saying, when are you going to retire? I said, this year. She said, you've been saying that for the past 15 years. And I share with you, the reason I continue even now is we get letters from all over the world. I'll just share with you only 2 little stories that came in. One was a man from Singapore. He wrote me a note, which is on our website, by the way. Both these stories are on the website. His name is Anil David. And this guy was in a heavy criminal activity. He was in money laundering. Now, Singapore money laundering ban, you are in trouble. The guy was doing some big numbers, over $1 million a month. Law caught up. He was in jail for 10 years. And he has 2 daughters. He said they were embarrassed, they hated me because I put them to shame. But he said my wife somehow maintained that confidence. And then 10 years I was there. And he said, I made up my mind. I got to do something different. So he said, I read this quote, winners don't do different things, they do things differently. So he said, I read your book. And he said, when I came out of the jail, he said, I must set my track right, make my daughters proud. He said, I was looking for a job. Nobody would hire a convict. Convict nobody hires. And he said, eventually I got a job for about $900 a month. And with $900, you can't even run your family. He said, I picked your book, this one, you can sell. And this book says the highest paid profession in the world is not a doctor, engineer, accountant, anything. Highest paid profession is that of a commission salesman. And he said, I decided to go into selling. I created my own company. And he said, I created a call center. Rocky, hear this. He said, I created a call center. And he said, today I have 600 employees. And his clients are Coca-Cola, Dell, ANZ, Grindr, Standard Chartered. This is the level of his clients. And the best part of his call center is that he has employed 300 jail inmates as his employees. So he got a permission from the government of Singapore to set up a new call center in the jail, and he has employed 300 people right there. And he said that was the turning point. And similar stories came in from Australia, where a lady had a major problem with the family. She was committing suicide. And when she read the book, she said, no, I got to fight it out. And she called me the day her daughter graduated from law school, and she started a practice, and she was doing her own business. And those things like that come back to me, and that's what tells me that, look, I should continue. I must carry on. So I told my wife, I said, look, I'm not retiring anymore. I'm not retiring. Maybe someday I'll be carried away from this some podium or somewhere, but I am continuing the way it is. That's what it is.
Thank you so much for that. And with that, I think we would move to the next part of the program, because we are eagerly waiting to hear you at the main stage, at the resort, because I know we want to hear your story. For those of you who haven't heard it, I think it's one of the most beautiful stories of resilience, grit, perseverance, and he's inspired millions. So thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you, sir.
It means a lot to us, and we're looking forward to hear you again.
Well, I have to thank you and Raki for inviting me here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
It's our pleasure and honor.